You know what time it is? It is time for another episode of Side Hustle Saturday Hustle Talks, and I'm your girl, Lisa. And my guest today is Yolonda Brinkley, who is the founder of Diversity in Cans. And, I always got a funny story of how I get my podcast guests. So I was minding my Black owned business and scrolling on Instagram, and I must have followed her previously on for something. I don't know, but anyway, it popped up that Diversity in Cans was live, and I'm like, oh, what's that? I popped on there, and here she is. We ain't gonna tell on you driving
All
down the
right.
freeway doing a live. All up in the camera, okay? Doing a- Driving, doing a live. Hey y'all, what's up? Wait a minute. Hold on. Oh, there's the police. And she was like, hold on, let me turn my camera. But I
Oh, I
go
that was
ahead.
on my cross country trip
Yeah, you were driving from LA to Pittsburgh?
to Philadelphia.
To Philadelphia, okay. And so I was following her, but I didn't know her narrative. I didn't know what diversity in cans was all about. So I just sat on there. It's funny how people are nosy. I just sat on there to listen to her talk. And then I clicked on her profile. I was like, oh, okay, this is a really unique story. I would love to have her on my podcast. So everybody that's in the podcast space, this is how you get a unique guest. I messaged her while she was driving and said, hey, I would love to have you on my podcast. And she said, hey, DM me. And here we are today. Yolanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for seeing me. Thanks for listening. Because when I click on those lives, if they're instantly not talking about something that I'm interested in, I'm clicking right off. So
Right.
kudos to you for being nosy. Nosy. I'm from Philly. We say newsy, but yes.
So, I just read the profile a little bit. I have done some research, but I want you to tell the Side Hustle Saturday community what is diversity in cans?
Diversity in can. No S.
Can,
Mm-hmm.
no S, can.
Yes, ma'am. The S is silent. It is an independent film movement promoting inclusion at the Cannes Film Festival.
Okay. And so, just how did it all come about? Because when I think of the Cannes Film Festival, you think glamour, you think, it's the top or the creme de la creme that is at the Cannes Film Festival. How did you even get this movement started?
You want the long version or you want the short version?
I want the Reader's Digest version.
The Reader's Digest. Okay. So basically, as an undergraduate
Uh-huh.
at Clark Atlanta University,
Okay.
studied in Cannes.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I was a French teacher, I was a language learner, all the things. So this is just a little backstory. I studied in Cannes always in the fall. I learned about the festival then.
Okay.
Just but it happens in the spring. So I never had the opportunity to attend.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward, I teach, I do all the things. I've always had a passion for entertainment and film and everything just as a child growing up in Philadelphia in the performing arts, but I wasn't pursuing it per se, though it was
Mm-hmm.
always a passion. Literally, had been working in corporate America for 10 years. I severed in March or February of 2009. I was literally sitting in my papasan chair in the spare bedroom of my apartment watching Young and the Restless. I was still watching Young and the Restless in about
Okay.
2009. And I popped up and I was like, "Oh, I can go to Cannes." Literally just like that.
Just like that.
I had the time and I had the money. Started doing the research. What do I need to go? Found out what I needed. It's for film industry professionals only. So
Mm-hmm.
there's no enthusiasts, no cinephiles that are
Because I'm going because I got a ticket. I'm just gonna pop up.
no, it's not no.
None of
So
that.
None of that. And so I had to go. I went and I researched. I figured out what I needed to do to establish myself as a professional. I had done a little bit of work with Doreen Spicer of Spice Rack Productions. So I was able to put that down. And I said I was in PR and I had done some work by that time. I think I had done some work with Bill Duke, but just a little bit. And so I made it happen. I went to the festival. I was able to buy an accreditation, a registration for the Marché du Film. Before I left, though, two of my friends were like, they threatened me. Two different occasions, two different times, like, don't come back without any footage. I'm like,
Okay.
like footage of what? Like, what am I going, I'm not a filmmaker. What am I going to get footage of? They were like, I don't know, but don't come back without footage. One of them loaned me their video camera. And once I got there, now I do speak the language. I'm familiar with the city, so I know all about that. And I even stayed at the college where I studied the first year. But I'm still, a novice to the industry, just walking around. So I decided that I would walk up on all the people who look like me. So I rolled up on all the Black people from the diaspora, like, hey, what are you doing here? How do you get tickets for this? What program are you in? Why are you here? How do I get tickets to the red carpets? How do I get tickets for the parties? None of us knew a daggone thing. Like
Wow.
most of the people were a part of a program, like an internship program. And then
Mm.
other people were like, oh, you just got to be in the right place at the right time. So that was like my experiences rolling up on all the people. So I have a video that I edited myself and I called it Blacks in Can, right? And
Right.
so as I'm moving about minding my business now, and I come from corporate and I come from corporate PR for a luxury brand. So
Okay.
I'm accustomed to having access to things.
Right. Right.
So not having access is really bothering me, really bothering me, is annoying me. I'm trying to figure out, what's going on, the lay of the land. Nobody could really tell me. That year, there was a guy named Rashid Bahati. He was on the ground doing something he called Afrique 360. Danny Glover was there, TNG Miller was there, and they were presenting some award to some African head of nation or something.
Hmm.
But it just felt, and this is not nothing against Rashid, this is more about um how things go there. But it was, it seems like they kept moving around. We didn't exactly know where it was going to take place. It was just a little disjointed. And so, but that's still just a part of my experience. I'm happy to be there. Took a picture with Danny Glover,
Right.
all the things, just walking around. It's a beautiful festival. There's beautiful people.
Right.
The Mediterranean is the backdrop, but I still didn't quite feel like I belonged, nor did I feel like I could I could find a way to belong,
Um.
right? Uh
Right.
I did have the accreditation, so that was good. But I just felt like I didn't belong, and then the other people that I ran up on that looked like me, I can't say how they felt, but they
Yeah.
didn't know anything. None of us knew shit. Like so, that was just
It's
that.
all the blind leading the
It was
blind.
the blind leading the blind. Yes, it was. And so that when I left, or as I was leaving, I was like, well, maybe this is not the festival for me. But then I reconsidered and I
Hmm.
was like, well, then nobody dictates what's for me but me. And I
Right.
like coming here. This is a beautiful place. It's magical. It's like a lot of energy, a lot of positive energy. Um, Once you get towards the end, you get tired because then you want to, the French are not that nice all the time. So you kind of get a little tired, but it was really a nice experience. I was looking cute. I had my outfits and I did get to walk the red carpet because I met a guy and he was part of
Okay.
the security. So, but that's when the idea of something was impregnated in me. I
Mm.
didn't know what
Yeah.
didn't know what.
Yeah.
Uh, and so then I said my video was termed Blacks in Can. So I
Mhm.
thought maybe it was going to be Blacks in Can. But then I worked on it in my head and then I reached out to a few Black people in America and nobody was committing to coming. So what I learned in that year, and that was 2009, is that it's a nice to have. It's not a mandatory thing,
Mm-hmm.
and the trip is very expensive. So nevertheless, it ended up being more diversity in Cannes.
Mm.
And it started out as a cross-cultural symposium.
Okay.
And although I didn't exactly know what I wanted it to be or what it was going to be, what I think and fundamentally, just as a Black person, I'm not even a filmmaker. I have one foot in, one foot out, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm more of a marketing communications professional, more publicity and marketing and promotions and
Yeah.
branding. But what I understand is that collectively, as Black people, with respect to the general market and the general industry, we don't have the power. We don't have the people in the leadership positions. We don't have folks that have the power to green light, especially not back then projects. And so the idea also is that in order for the global majority to succeed in the world of film, we need every we need all of our eyes on all of our projects, not
Right.
just Black eyes, because Black people are not a monolith. And so just because, I make, which is clear, just use is we use Tyler Perry as an example.
Right.
Some people love Tyler Perry, some people don't love Tyler Perry, right? And so we can't assume that because a Black person is going to make it or a Black person made it, that Black people will support it, because that's
Right.
always the case. So I operate in that philosophy. So I don't want us all coming to Cannes as Black people coming together and socializing with our limited power in the sense of the general industry,
Right.
not as
Mhm.
indie filmmakers, but as decision makers in the industry. I didn't want to facilitate that. I wanted to facilitate a more inclusive environment where we are expanding our global network and getting more eyes on our projects as diverse individuals
Mhm.
to potentially get more followers and more people to see our stuff. So more eyes on our projects, like I said already. And it's evident in movies all, globally. Like when Barbie came out,
Right.
it wasn't a white movie. It was a general market movie. It was just Barbie. You know,
Mhm.
when Best Man Holiday comes out, that's a Black movie, even though it's a universal story. So
Right.
that already marketed only to a certain group of people. So I wasn't trying to perpetuate that.
Mhm.
So diversity in Can was born.
So you got this idea, went to Cannes, did some research. How'd you get the momentum going? Like, all right, I'm gonna do this thing.
Right.
Like, how do you get the momentum going to like get people like, yeah, we with you?
Right. Right. So listen, the first year, right? So first of all, I do almost everything by myself. I have
Okay.
volunteers. I have no, I there's no staff, which is the gift and the curse, which is the competitive advantage and the competitive disadvantage.
Right.
An advantage because I just have to worry about getting myself there
Mhm.
and doing the work and my housing. It's the competitive disadvantage because I have to only worry about getting myself there and getting my own stuff because I can't do everything and do it perfectly.
Right.
So, but that's how I've been able to sustain for 15 years. Um,
Okay.
but the momentum. The first year, there were about 15 people that attended, and
15. Okay.
and I had it in a big, beautiful room at the Majestic Hotel, which is like the host hotel directly right across the street. I had
Mhm.
I had two panelists and a moderator. The first person that agreed to be a panelist was Michael Rowe, and he
Okay.
was official selection of the Directors Fortnight. And he actually went on to win the Golden Camera Award that year for his film Anna Bisiesto. But he's a Australian that was living in Mexico. And then I had Felipe Bragantia from Brazil. He was also an official selection that year. So once the announcements were made, the official selection announcements, I just stalked the internet and social media and found these people. So it was in April that I confirmed the panelists. Can is in May.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I got busy and I just started working, trying to find a location and everything. So the first year it was just 15 people. Oh, and then I had Tracy Rector. She was the moderator. She's a Native American filmmaker from Seattle. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was my first year panel. And then um 15 people. And like I said, it was a nice space. And and I was doing all the marketing and social media.
Yeah.
Twitter was very good, and Facebook was also good. But Twitter, I have to credit Twitter for like helping launch it like one tweet at a time in social media because I'm building a global brand from
Right.
the US in France for people from all over the world. So
Mm-hmm.
social media and the internet played a big role in helping with the momentum.
Mm-hmm. This segment of Hustle Talks is brought to you by Studio 951. Need a game changing marketing strategy? At Studio 951, we help businesses stand out with expert branding, social media management, content creation, web design, and video editing. From crafting eye catching visuals to driving engagement, we bring your brand to life online and beyond. Ready to grow? Let's build something amazing together. Visit studio-951.com today. Okay.
And that was 2009, like May 10th, maybe May 20th, probably May 20th, 2010. May 20th, 2010 was the official launch of Diversity in Can. And so
Mm-hmm.
each year I've just been building on the ground. Like once I got there, I was hanging out at the places, handing out flyers and
Yeah.
talking to people. And then so that was the first year. For the first 3 years, I had it at the Majestic Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And momentum just started by word of mouth, just me being out there, passing out flyers, hustling, and then the speakers. And now I can't even remember who was my second year, but then I kept going. Then I did an all-female panel, and each year I tried to have diverse panelists. And then one year I think I had an all-black woman panel. And then I think when it grew, 10, 11, 12. Okay. Okay. So when I think the momentum really started and got and while I was in the Majestic, the rooms were packed. The room
Right.
They were packed with just
Mm-hmm.
various people. But I think the movement grew when I no longer could pay for it myself because I
Out of
funded the
your
movement.
pocket.
Because I had some extra coins. I
Mm-hmm.
funded the movement when I first got started. And then in 2013, when I could no longer fund it out of my pocket, I started the short film showcase piece of it.
Mm-hmm. What was that all about?
So before it was just a cross-cultural panel.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2013, it evolved into a short film showcase and the panel discussion. So we accepted short films, like it's a mini festival. It's not a festival, but it's a showcase where we showcase films. They submit them just like a regular festival, and we evaluate for screening, for screening potential, and then we screen the films on the ground in Cannes.
Mm-hmm.
So and the motivation behind that was one, to help defray the cost. And then two, this is where my thought was that I would be a helpmeet to the Cannes Film Festival and some of the filmmakers that were in the short film corner, which is a segment of the festival. And the reason I thought I could be a helpmeet to them was because when you watch the shorts in the short film corner, you kind of did it library style, where you sat in the cubicles and you
Mhm.
watch the films on a desktop. So on a, 15, 17-inch desktop, you're standing up or maybe sitting down watching these films.
Yeah.
So my initial target, my initial target were my initial target was filmmakers that were already going to be at the Cannes Film Festival in the short film corner. I wanted to give them a platform, a bigger screen to showcase their work.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
so that's how the short film component of it started. But that's
Mhm.
also when the momentum started to increase.
Gotcha. Now, I've read that Diversity and Can receive funding from Viola Davis Juvie Productions. How did that come about?
Yeah, that didn't happen until um let's say 2018 or
Hmm.
so. So it was
Okay.
years before that. But the Juvie Productions partnership started. I planted the seed a few years before I officially got the coins.
Hmm.
Because again, I do everything on the internet. I found out that they had a short film that the VP of development, Kaylin Hunt, had directed.
Hmm.
I reached out to them to ask if they wanted to screen their film during our showcase. They said yes.
Hmm.
We worked it all out. I asked them, in not in return, because it wasn't a tit for a tat, it wasn't a reciprocity thing, but I
Yeah.
asked then if they wanted to sponsor. They said
Hmm.
they couldn't sponsor that year. I was like, well, no worries. You know, it's okay. I still want to screen your project.
Right.
I later screened it again in LA at the California African American Museum. I did a month of film programming for them during Black History Month. So I screened the film again.
Hmm.
The next year, the year that Will Smith was on the jury of Cannes, I can't remember the year, but I know Will Smith was a jury member because somebody had said, and I'm from Philly, so I wanted to, find Will. So I
Right.
heard he was at the Majestic Hotel. And so I ran over to the Majestic Hotel to see if Will was over there to tell him about diversity in Cannes.
Hmm.
He wasn't there. And I walked up on this Black woman, I think she was from the UK, and she knows me from Diversity in Cannes, but we weren't really acquainted. She was
Right.
two Black men, an African man and an African American man. And so she introduced me, and on the side, she told me that was Julius Tenen, Viola Davis's husband.
Okay.
So we chatted. I didn't make it a big deal. We chatted. I got the business card.
Right. Right.
Because that's what you need to do. I tell
you
everybody the key to networking is not you giving them your business card, but
you
you
get the
saying,
card.
yes, yes. 'Cause they never gonna write you.
Right.
They're never gonna write you back. Because as networking go, even though you
Mhm.
can learn as networking goes, even though you can learn from other people, nobody's networking backwards.
Right.
If you're not where they are, they'll be nice to you, but they're not
Yeah.
trying to like foster a new relationship with you. So I
Right.
got the card and I sent him a message.
Hmm.
Didn't respond. And the message was inviting him to diversity. Because by this time, it went from just diversity in Cannes. I started doing Diversity Day at the Cannes Film Festival.
Okay.
So by that, like I had some things change, but so I sent him an email inviting him to Diversity Day. He didn't respond. Months later, I sent the very same email. I didn't change it. I took the lazy route. Like I really did because by this time I'm tired because I'm always trying to find sponsors. I'm working with filmmakers trying to get submissions. So you get kind of burned out like asking,
Right.
trying to prove your worth and everything. So
Hmm.
I did the ghetto move and I just sent the same exact email. Who does that? Like, and I know better, but I
You
did it. I,
did.
I sent it and Kaylin Hunt responds via email. And
Hmm.
then he wanted to talk to me. And so we spoke and he said they wanted to sponsor Yeah, that was 2018 because I was in Atlanta.
Mhm.
They wanted to sponsor, and they did, and he gave me an amount.
Mhm.
And then, like a couple weeks later, I got another check for another amount. So I immediately called them like, "Hey, I got another check," and it was like, "Yeah, we wanted to give you some more money."
Nice.
So it's not a lot of money,
Right.
but it helps. It helps expand. It helps put the finishing touches on it. But that's how I was able to get Juvie Production involved, because
Mhm.
I planted the seed first, and then I
Right.
actually met Julius. And when I met him, I was able to say, "Yeah, I screened Blink." I think that was the name of it. But Kaylin
Mhm.
cut short, or the Brink. I think it was the Brink. I screened that last year at Diversity in Cannes. And he was like, "Oh," so I had something to talk about. And then that's how the relationship began. And they've been sponsoring ever since. I haven't gone back for this year yet,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
I am. I will.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and so they they give me a couple dollars, every year. And then they've made two videos for me together,
Yeah.
um promoting diversity in can. Viola Davis tweeted one of my videos, so
Mhm.
which is the most impact that I've ever had. They haven't been to Cannes, though they've been twice. They haven't been to Diversity in Cannes, but they're always willing to help out. And the relationship is facilitated by Kaylin Hunt and Julius Tenen. He
Mhm.
oversees it. I've never met Viola Davis, but those two are always accessible to me. Whenever I email them, they respond. So I am grateful for their presence and for their sponsorship and for their support.
Mhm. So I want to touch upon a thing. I touched upon what you talked about, networking.
Yes.
Networking, I think, is so key when you are in the entrepreneurial space, startup space, solopreneur, whatever space that may be. Talk to me about, how you found networking to help you with your movement. Like how important is that for you?
Networking is extremely important. I was networking before I knew what networking was.
Right.
Uh, I've been networking since I was about 8. Haven't
Not this
haven't had
age.
the No, seriously. I haven't had an entrepreneurial spirit, but I've
Mhm.
been knowing how to move in circles since
Right.
I was a little girl. You know,
Mhm.
you listen to my brothers and my siblings talk about me. My brother said to me not too long ago, what did he say to me? He said something like, "Yeah, you always been spoiled. Everybody spoils you." Something along those lines. Well,
Mhm.
because listen, I knew what we were working with financially, with a single parent home. I knew I needed multiple people to be in my corner to get stuff done early. I learned that early. I grew up in the projects of
Uh-huh.
Philadelphia, right? I mean, great experience. Like, love my project. Still talk to my project people to this day. But
Mhm.
I went to school outside of the projects, of my own doing.
Yeah.
I had cousins that lived all in different parts of the city and different parts of Philly. I'm grew up in like the East Fall section. I'm in Logan. I'm in Germantown. I'm in West Oak Lane. I got people all around the city. So
Mhm.
I knew early how to, and I didn't know the reason. Oh, and then I went to Freedom Theater Performing Arts School on my own request to my mom. Like, "Mom, I want to go to a new school. Mom, I learned about this theater. Can I go?" Right? All on
Mhm.
my own. So I've been networking my whole life. I
Right.
finding a way or making one, which just so happens to be the motto of my alma mater, Clark Atlanta University. I'll find a way or make one. I've
Mhm.
been living that philosophy my whole entire life. So
Mm.
networking is what I do. And like I said, I've been doing it since before I even knew what it was and how it could, benefit me. So I
Mhm.
believe 100% in the power of networking. All the experiences I've ever had in my life probably have come from networking.
Mhm.
Um, and so for the movement, and for diversity and I want to tell you a one quick story about networking. I had gone to Clark Atlanta. I was teaching, and then I wanted to go to graduate school, and I went to a destination MBA conference in Washington D.C. And I didn't even know what that was. A friend of mine who's a Harvard MBA now, who's the
Mhm.
CEO of a company now, like a real company, not like my little company, like a real company. She's like, oh, I'm going. She was like, I'm going to this thing. So I went, and there as soon as I got in, I saw the people from Clark Atlanta, and I asked them who has money for minorities. I found out they said Babson College and the University of Illinois or something like that. I went over
Mhm.
to the University of Illinois table. I found out that they had this thing called Diversity Weekend.
Mhm.
Was able to, smooth and get an invitation to that, all expense paid trip to Illinois. I get there for the MBA for the diversity weekend, and a lot of the students went to Central State University, which is
Right.
which is where my brother went. Those people knew my brother. Like about three or four, and a couple of them were my brother's frat.
Uh-huh.
And because of those people and networking with them, I was able to get a full ride to graduate school.
Yeah.
I could get paid, teach people
Then that-
how I
Hey, that's a class.
yeah,
That's a master class right
it,
there.
it is right. But I'm trying to figure out how to monetize it in this, as a solopreneur, as an entrepreneur in this space, because this is entrepreneurship is not my natural thing.
Okay.
Like monetizing the things that I know. They were more survival tactics.
Mm.
So entrepreneurship, I'm just really starting to think about exactly how it scales and how it can be a business, even though I do have an MBA
Yeah.
in marketing and international business. Entrepreneurship is not my thing.
What do you think is the hardest thing about entrepreneurship?
For me, for me, it's monetizing my ideas and
Mm.
thinking bigger than
Mhm.
my own little space. Because
Right.
I speak languages and I've traveled around. I was in corporate America for a long. I mean, now I've now been out of corporate America longer than I've been no, I've now been entrepreneurial longer than I was in corporate America. Uh,
Mhm.
but I don't have, being candid, I don't have the money to really show for it. Right. And so, yeah, so I know this is the side hustle thing. So my point, be intentional about your side hustle. Like this was something that just kind of fell in my lap that
Right.
I wasn't planning for. I was planning to stay out of work for maybe a year, work in entertainment, figure out where I wanted to be and go that route. This
Mhm.
whole diversity in Cannes global film movement thing, this was not a part of the plan. And now that it is the plan, and it's
Mhm.
sometimes it's the only thing that I have in my life, not like in
Mhm.
a bad way, but it's the only thing that I can depend on that I know I always have. I gotta I gotta figure out, like, if it's not making dollars, it ain't making sense.
Right.
I have enough money to produce the event and to get there and all the things, but if I'm going to give any advice, since this is a side hustle thing, make sure that it counts, and make sure that you are getting the coins to go with your work and your effort.
Mhm.
So for me, I'm hoping that my payoff will eventually come now that I'm coming full circle and understanding the power of what I have. Now
Right.
I'm trying to switch it up some and switch the strategy up and really determine my why and how I want to get there.
Right. That's so important. I think the why is going to take you where you need to go.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
why will. Now, I I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and I was just going to say, I the thing that I
Mhm.
love is I love my freedom. And I didn't
Say
even
that.
and I didn't even know that that was a thing
Yeah.
until I got it.
Yeah.
And then I had the money just from my savings,
Yeah.
from my movements. and the sale of my condo when I moved from New Jersey to California,
Mm-hmm.
I love my freedom. And what I did wrong was that, and I'm a hell of a money manager.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily a money maker, but I'm a money manager. And what I've learned over the course of these times is how I can live on as little as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the lesson that I want people to get. I
Right.
want I want to thrive and have my freedom at the same time. And that's where I am now
Right.
because the
Right.
financial struggle is real.
Oh, it is. It
And
is.
and so this is what 15 years that no wait a minute. So 2018. So almost this is 17 years that I've been out on my own. And so
Mhm.
again, this is side hustle Saturday. The goal is to thrive and to build, not
Right.
to have your freedom and to have money. That's
Right.
the goal.
Right. I think
But
when you get a taste of the freedom, that's when the hustle plays
mine
a
didn't kick
part.
in because I had the money. And so now
Oh,
because I had money, but then when the money started running out,
that's when you had to hustle.
yes, and then I don't always hustle. So if you're lazy or if you're a procrastinator like I am, sometimes it's not hitting.
Right.
I tell the people all the time, listen, I make this shit look easy. If you saw everything that's going on behind these scenes, you'd be amazed. Like, what? You know, so that just talking about the hustle part and the entrepreneurship part. Uh,
Hmm.
that's my 2 cents.
So, what do you feel like is next for diversity in cans? If it was, how high could you go?
So I talked to somebody about it maybe about 6 months ago because I feel like honestly that if somebody else had diversity in can, it may be somewhere else. It may be another stratosphere just because of my habits and stuff. I mean, it's a big deal, not a big deal like that, but it's a big deal, right? Kelly Rowland says there are no little things, right? There are no
Right.
little things. There's not very many people. And when I started, people can't say they've done anything for 15 minutes or 15 days or 15 weeks or 15 months. I've been doing this for 15 years. So that accounts for something. So I'm not
Mhm.
downplaying my progress. But what I am saying is that maybe if I put it in somebody else's hand that had a different entrepreneurial spirit that I have, then maybe it would be something else or it would be something else,
A
right?
different hands.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
And so now I'm thinking about how to scale it so that it is something that I can sustain and that I can live off because I put in full-time hours, but I don't get full-time pay. I'm
Mhm.
paid like an intern and I'm not even paid like you. So exactly, right? More like an intern or a volunteer, right? So to scale it, to incorporate some things that I think will have benefit. And they've been in my mind probably for like the last 6 or 7 years. But again, I'm one person. I get overwhelmed sometimes. And
Yeah.
so not always on my P's and Q's. I have this book right here. I have Atomic Habits right here that I need to read. I have another book, The 5 a.m. Club, that I'm
Mhm.
trying to read so I can get better at what I'm doing. But
Yeah.
what I can say, I don't want to say, for everybody, but what I can say is that I am a Cannes Film Festival subject matter expert. I'm a city of Cannes subject matter expert. So
Mhm.
my thoughts is that I can begin offering those services, though I've done it on a small scale, I
Yeah.
can begin offering those services to people, be like the American in France, because
Mhm.
it's a France and you're dealing with the vendors and the people. You don't need to you don't need to necessarily speak French because most of them speak English, but their service sucks a lot of times. And so if I could be that person there that has a sense of American customer service versus the French customer service, then I may be able to add value to people and their trips. Have an example, I have a friend that works for the NAACP. They went to Cannes Lion, which is a different thing from Cannes. It's more of advertising and happens in June. And she she couldn't stay at her hotel. It was too far. She didn't like it. All the things. She called me. I called my connect, got her a new housing situation immediately. And I wasn't even there. And it wasn't even during an event where I go, but I had my connections. So that's what prompted me to be like, okay, well, maybe I can add services. And then I'm full service marketing communications. So I do PR, events, branding,
Mm-hmm.
social media. So I'm thinking I can that's so it may not be building diversity in Can, but it's building myself and
Right.
the Can expert and the Can
Mm-hmm.
event production company, the Can media group or whatever. So that's one thing that I'm also considering in terms of growth. And now that my mindset is shifting.
Right. So from where you started to where
Yes.
you are now, what are
Yes.
some of the what have you learned about yourself? Because being an entrepreneur, you go deep.
Well, I told you I learned that I'm lazy and I'm a procrastinator. And I'm gonna switch that. I'm gonna make it more positive.
Okay.
I'm a procrastinator who loves her freedom.
Mm.
And that's the most important thing. This freedom, like coming and going as I please.
Right.
Oh my God. That's amazing. And
Mhm.
then, I mean, though I come from humble beginnings as an adult, I've always been able to take care of myself and I had a decent salary, but I can live off of anything
Mhm.
and I can make some money stretch.
Mhm.
Those are the things that I learned about myself. Now I want to learn some new stuff, like how, like I said, how I can thrive and how I can excel and do this and have my freedom at the same time. But that's what I learned about myself. I also learned that I'm a bridge builder, that I
Mhm.
am, my friends they call me the navigator, instigator, coordinator, all the things that has to do with getting shit done. My
Right.
that and getting shit done and my resourcefulness is my superpower.
Mhm.
That's what I've learned on a positive note. The whole I'll find a way or make one. I live by that. That's my motto. That's how I, get things done. I've also learned that because I'm that type of person, sometimes I'm kicking down doors that may not need to be kicked down. They may not need to be open. They may need to be kept shut.
Mhm.
But because I'm so
Yeah.
right, right, then, just as an example, like I snuck into the first, the Barack Obama's first inaugural ball from outside, me and my friend. So by any
Right.
means necessary, I had a ticket, but it was all the way on the other side of the venue,
Mhm.
and I wasn't walking all the way over there. My friend didn't have a ticket, so I saw a glitch in the system, and I took advantage of it.
Right.
So I learned that sometimes, just things aren't supposed to be.
Yeah.
I mean, that was supposed to be, but I'm just telling you the things that I can accomplish
Uh-huh.
just being resourceful.
So I like what you said about being resourceful. What would you say to someone who is an indie filmmaker that's of color and they want to premiere or showcase their film in Cannes, but are, kind of a little hesitant because, it's not for us. What words of encouragement would you give to them?
I'll first say this. So nobody dictates what's for you but you.
Mm,
So if you want to be at Cannes, and when you say premiere at Cannes, you mean the festival the official
mhm. I want to go pie in the sky. I want to premiere at Cannes.
so my advice is anything is possible, right? You just have to make the best possible film that you can within the confines of the budget and the resources that you have. However, the likelihood, and this is not a negative, and I'm leading to something when I say this. However, the likelihood that you will have something in can is slim to none. And this is for all of the people, not just minorities. This is for all the people. They accept 60 films or so per year.
Mm-hmm.
How many people in the world?
Right.
So just do the math like that.
Mm-hmm.
However, anything is possible, and I believe that wholeheartedly. So I'm not saying don't try.
Right.
But this is my advice, even bigger than wanting something screened there. If you are interested, if you are an indie filmmaker and you are interested in the global film industry, if you are interested in having a global film career, then you need to be at the Cannes Film Festival to attend their film market and take advantage of the networking opportunities that are there on the ground at Cannes. I met Julius Tennant on the ground at Cannes. They're now, Juvie Productions is now a sponsor. So bigger than them celebrating us and selecting us is the business of film. Mm-hmm. And if you are interested in a global film career, and it doesn't even necessarily just have to be Cannes, you need to be attending the global film markets. Mm-hmm. To meet these connections. Now, they're filled with the white patriarchy. So even those could be hardcore, hard to break through. But you are there, you're meeting the people, you're learning what they are selecting for distribution or what they're buying for distribution. You know what the sales agents are accepting as, films that they'll represent. So even bigger than having them celebrate you, the business opportunities are there. So that's more of my advice. And I'm going to give Will Smith as an example, not specific to the Cannes Film Festival, but if you think about his career and how he worked all those years, was a box office favorite. But he never had an Oscar, right? All those years. So he didn't need the Academy Awards to validate him as an actor or a bona fide star or the greatest. He worked all of those years without it, right? We're not going to talk about the incident, but we're just going to talk about that move. So if you are waiting for somebody from the establishment, from the patriarchy to celebrate you and to pick you, you're going to be waiting for a long time. Mm. So the advice is, make the best film you can, submit it, right? Because it doesn't hurt to submit, but also check and see what kinds of films they've selected over the course of the years. Look at the films that have won and you'll see what they pick, right? And my interpretation is that if I'm trying to get from A to Z, in order for the films to be selected for Cannes, it has to go to A, to B, to J, to M, to Z, back to A, around the corner to Y, back up to D, and then to Z.
Right.
You're not doing no linear stuff.
No.
Not in my personal opinion. That's my personal interpretation. So you got to be thinking outside the box. Or if it's a story, and this is something that I noticed not too long ago, and these are my personal opinions about it. If it's something that Black people or underrepresented people deal with on a regular, let's say like health insurance, and the patriarchy does it, then it's avant-garde. Then it's wonderful, right? So that's what I've learned. Like I've seen two films that really stick out in my head that prove that point to me.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's something that, you think we go through, or people underrepresented populations or underrepresented populations go through, make it a story and then put the white people in it.
Right.
If you're just trying to get to can.
Right.
Direct it and put the white people.
Just on a humble.
Yeah. And maybe you'll get in.
Right. So, if you could describe your journey
Mhm.
in one word, what would that be?
Hmm. If I could describe my journey in one word, what would it be? Wow. Was that on the list of questions?
No, it was not.
I don't remember the questions, but I don't listen. I gotta think about that. Um, I really have to think about that. But if I had to choose a word right now, I would say progressive.
That's a good word.
I would say progressive, and maybe pioneering.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because it's an evolution. So
Yeah.
anything that has to do with progress, because though I don't think where I am where I should be, I have implemented a lot of things over the course of these years. It
Mm-hmm.
started out as a cross-cultural panel
Yeah.
in 2010. In 2011 or 2012, I started the Cannes Film Festival information session, Know Before You Go, because people need to know before they get there what they're getting into.
Mm-hmm.
2013, I started the short film showcase. 2015, I believe that's when I started coining the day, Diversity Day.
Mm-hmm.
2017 or 2018, I did Global Women of Color in Film. And then I started having a targeted group of films. So I have a general diversity set of films, and then I have a targeted group sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
2022, I started the celebration of Black women in film. And then as a result of my relationship or my efforts, and then a relationship that I started with the British Film Institute, because we did two things separately in 2022, but
Mm-hmm.
now last year I softly launched Black Women Can.
Okay.
And the reason that I did that is because though I don't want to have us just in one space and networking amongst ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
I created Black Women Can to celebrate, uplift, and support Black women at the Cannes Film Festival, because in their 77-year history, they've only selected two Black women in competition. And one was in 2019 and
Mm-hmm.
one was in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So Black women, what I learned is that we constantly show up.
Right.
92%. Need I say more?
Right.
Constantly show up. And we show up in hopes that somebody's going to pick us, we're going to be chosen, or
Mm-hmm.
somebody's going to celebrate us, or we're just here to do business, even though they're not going to. So I wanted to celebrate us, ourselves, when a for us, by us movement. So
Mm-hmm.
when Black Women Can was launched. And so I would have to say it's been progressive. I would say evolution. I'd say pioneering, because whether it's big or not, you know, we're still a small fish in the big
Mm-hmm.
pond, but we have great impact.
Yeah.
People who attend our events, if you look at our reviews, they love the idea, they love the events, they love the thing. So, yeah.
Well, Yolanda, it has been eye-opening and a pleasure to learn about your story. Like I said, I met you on just
Right.
scrolling.
Right.
And I'm so glad that we were able to come together and you were on my podcast, because that's how you learn. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. I know nothing about the film industry. I just thought your story was so unique that I wanted to have you on the podcast to share, because you just never know who you might reach and touch based upon your story to help another fellow entrepreneur. So thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show and share your story.
Thank you so much for seeing me, sis. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the opportunity to impart, some wisdom on people, or not even wisdom per se, but impart
Mhm.
my story and share my story, like you say, in hopes that it could inspire or motivate or deter somebody from doing it my way. Like whatever the lesson is, I hope
Mhm.
it's received far and wide and in the spirit in which I delivered it.
And so, how can people get in contact with you? How can they reach you?
The same, like, social media is the best way, is the initial way, because it's easier.
Hmm.
Hit us up on social media at diverse and can, DIVERSE, can, CAN, excuse me, diverse in the letter N, can, CANNES. I'm gonna do that again.
Hmm.
Diverse and can at DIVERSE, the letter N, can, CANNES.
Okay. All right. That's how I got in contact with her, y'all.
Exactly.
That's
So it works, right?
me
It works.
her on Instagram, and she did respond, and here we are today.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
thank you, Yolanda, so much. And, I just hope that your movement grows and goes beyond can. I think it needs to be more than, what could it be? Sundance? Could it be all the other film festivals that we're underrepresented in? So thank you so much that you shared your story today.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And everybody, y'all know what to do. You need to follow me you need to subscribe to my channel. So hit that subscription button. And you also need to follow me on my Instagram at side hustle underscore Saturday, and on TikTok at side hustle underscore Saturday. And guess what? I'll talk to y'all soon. And that was it.